الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Dear viewers and participants of today's special webinar, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First, let's send peace and blessings upon our Master Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. As-salatu was-salamu alayka ya Rasulallah. As-salatu was-salamu alayka ya Habiballah. As-salatu was-salamu alayka ya Nabiyallah. Wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Nurallah. Sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. Alhamdulillah, all praises to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who's given us the opportunity once again to help the Ummah and the masses. And as part of Hope, Team Hope, Sunni Dawat Islami has been organizing these webinars for the last few weeks now. And as we've been explaining every week, we've got 3 series. One is the employability and skills development series, which we have been listening to the different speakers on over the last few weeks. We've also got the career guidance series. And this webinar today is part of the 3rd series, which is the career insight series. So over the last few weeks, we've been learning about CV writing and how to prepare a standout CV. We've also been listening to our speakers about UCAS applications and personal statements, and also what route to take after college. Now, today we've got lined up a very, very interesting session on working in the police force. Alhamdulillah, I'm now going to pass over to our esteemed honorable guide, Bulbul Baghi Madina Al-Hajj Qari Muhammad Rizwan, who has joined us from the city of Mumbai in India. Qari Sahab, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Qari Sahab, I think your mic is muted maybe.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallahu khaira, Hafiz Sahab. With a brief introduction given by you for this Hope educational series, and I'm happy to be a part of it. In fact, everybody who is already associated knows that this initiative began in India with the name of Ummeed. Ummeed in English means hope. So we can say that we are trying to translate it in England and trying to reach people with hope, with the hope that we hope to bring about the Ummah to a greater platform where we can have good education, and that educational qualification translates into performance with character. That's how we say that SDI ka kaam kare, ilm wa akhlaq aam kare. And this particular session, I was really looking forward to, because my association with Lancashire Constabulary goes back to 1990s when I first arrived in England, and in 1996. And since then, Brother Altaf has been very influential with SDI and in association with SDI. That one line really attracts me whenever I see the emblem, the monogram of Lancashire Constabulary, which is called Partnership Against Crime. Partnership Against Crime. So this is exactly what we are looking forward to. That you can see on the screen. The screen was shared. Myself receiving. I still have got that helmet with me. Altaf bhai, can you see this? I can show you this. This is what I got it from Inspector Ian Mills. Was it Altaf bhai?
Right,
if I remember correctly, Inspector Ian Mills.
I think you should try it on, Qari Sahab.
Shall I? Okay.
Absolutely.
Inshallah. Okay.
MashaAllah.
Okay. Inshallah. Yes. Here we go.
Now we've got a new recruit already.
So you got the first recruit now, even before honorable guest speaker, chief guest,
Exactly.
chief speaker today, Chief Inspector Amjad Khan speaks a word, even a single word. Before that, you're going to recruit now.
Exactly.
So I'm really happy to be the first recruit. So this is how it is. And I still remember this medal I received from Lancashire Constabulary. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Excellent. It is here. And another prism is still with me. I have preserved these mementos of my visits, frequent visits to Lancashire Constabulary. And I also remember one of these sessions, live sessions with Inspector Richard Debicki, I think it was. And then later on, Ian Mills as well. We had some discussion about how to counsel the drug addicts and all that stuff. So I'll still remember that. Even Hafiz Faisal was there, Siraj Bhai was there with me. Do you remember that?
I remember, yes. And through your company, I can also show this as well.
You've all got some.
MashaAllah. So this partnership goes a long way, and it still has to go a long way, inshallah. So this is another road, this is another path that we are taking to reach the masses, to reach the public, and to tell them that, look, police is not just to get frightened of, but as they fondly call the policeman in England, Bobby. So Bobby is your friend, and we can get to know each other very well by being associated with them, in contact with them, to get to know about how it functions. And it's not only policing that is associated with the police department. There are so many other departments where we can give our services, offer our services, and if there are any apprehensions or any reservations, we can just dilute them and then build a strong community and contribute towards the nation and the nation, as I mentioned in the last session as well. The nation, I mean Ummah, and the nation, I mean country. So we have to contribute towards both. So with that brief introduction of me being here, I'll pass it on to my brother Altaf Bhai to take it further, and the session kicks off.
Jazakallah, Qari Sahab, that's for the kind words and an excellent introduction, and you look very smart in that helmet. Well, it gives me pleasure to introduce my colleague and our guest speaker today, Chief Inspector Abid Khan. Abid has been with the Constabulary for over 25 years and has taken on many roles, including firearms officer, staff officer to the Deputy Chief Constable, and public order commander. He has worked in many parts of the county in Lancashire, which includes Burnley, Rosendale, and most recently in Blackburn. He's currently based at police headquarters and heads the workforce representative and positive action team. And this is why he's here today, because he's responsible for recruiting police officers from Black, Asian, and minority communities. Abid is a highly respected officer. He has a wealth of knowledge and experience in policing, and is also an executive committee member of the Lancashire Black Police Association. Without any further ado, if I can invite Abid for his presentation, that would be great. Abid, over to you.
Jazakallah. Al, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Good. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum to everybody. Qari Sahab, Hafiz Sahab, you've probably done most of my work for me. As long as we've got one recruit, that's it. My job's done. If I get one recruit from every event that I do, I'm finished. That's I can hang my hat up and retire. So you have been very kind in your words. Al has been very kind in his in introducing me. What I've got first, before we carry on, and I will carry on into a bit of a presentation, is just a video that is a national one that is being shown to try and recruit people from particularly minority ethnic backgrounds. So I think it's Brother Fareed, if I'm not mistaken, who is the technical guru on all this. I've left it pretty much to him. So if somebody could hit some buttons somewhere to make that video work, I'd be really grateful.
The thing that I love most about my job, my career, is helping people.
We are expected, quite rightly, to protect the vulnerable in our society.
Knowing that when somebody calls or we have a cry for help, that I'm going to be there. I've seen how a single person can change a whole family's life.
You'll be at the forefront of making a difference to your community.
It's about going the extra mile above and beyond.
You just never know what you're going to do from one day to the next.
No 2 days are the same, but that's what makes the role so exciting.
Being in the police, you come to expect the unexpected.
Police service have given me the correct expertise, training and support to be able to deal with any situation.
Good communication skills, good interactive skills, be caring and compassionate.
Putting yourself in their shoes and truly understanding what they are going through.
There's definitely a sense of pride in putting on the uniform.
It's so rewarding and it's such a good motivation for me to go out there and be the inspiration for women and people from different diverse backgrounds.
Serving within the police family is a real privilege.
What I find most rewarding is the thank you that you get.
I think this job was made for me.
I really do think I've got the best job in the world.
It's brilliant. It's a brilliant thing.
It's not just a job, it's life-changing.
Jazakallah. I hope that's just a little taster for what policing is about and the diverse people that now work in the police service. And Gary Saab and Hafiz Saab have alluded to hope. I hope you could look at me and think that everybody's got a bit of hope. If I can make it to Chief Inspector, then pretty much anybody can make Chief Superintendent, Assistant Chief Constable, and who knows, even Chief Constables, which is one thing that I would like to see certainly in my lifetime, that, you know, we have some senior officers in Lancashire Police. So as Altaf has alluded to, let me just tell you a little bit about myself. I come from Rosendale, a small town called Haslingden. Some of you will have passed through it, but if you blink, you've probably missed it because it's so small. I started here 25 years ago and I worked 4 years on response. So that's the day-to-day policing. I then joined the firearms team. I spent 4 years as a firearms officer before moving to headquarters to do some training of police officers. So I taught them the law, policy and procedure, how to go out and be police officers. I did some time in a policy department and then I'd done my sergeant's exam. So I got promoted to sergeant, went back into Blackburn to do response as a sergeant, and I also did neighbourhood policing. Got promoted to inspector, and then I did pretty much the same response inspector as well as neighbourhood policing. I spent some time as the staff officer to the Deputy Chief Constable, which is an interesting job. I know it might sound boring, but it's all about the strategic view of what happens in policing. And then I was fortunate enough to get promoted to Chief Inspector and became a firearms commander. So tragically, you'll have heard of the shooting of Aya Hashim, the young girl from Lebanon that was shot in Blackburn. I was the firearms commander on that day, and it was a very tragic day, a very busy one, a challenging one. We recovered the car reasonably quickly, but clearly the investigation has gone on for quite a long time and will probably go on for quite some considerable time yet. As Altaf said, I'm a public order bronze and a silver commander, so I've dealt with EDL demonstrations, I do the football matches, so I've dealt with Preston Blackburn, Blackburn Burnley, and if those of you know anything about football, they hate each other. So it can be a very, very challenging environment. And it's my job to do all the planning, put an operational plan together, set the tactical parameters, and then brief the officers to go out into specific areas for responsibility to ensure that that operation runs as smoothly as it possibly can do. Which brings me up to this current moment. And as Altaf has said, I'm a member of the Lancashire Black Police Association, which is a support network. It's not like the Federation. The Federation is actually a union. Because police officers can't strike, we can't have a union. So we have a federation who represent us with government and other bodies. But the Federation will deal with the very high level stuff. So if you get yourself into some real difficulty in policing, for example, you're accused of assault or, you know, a criminal act, then the Federation will pay for legal advice, etc. But how do you deal with the smaller issues? For example, I want to perform my salah at work and there's no salah room to do it. There's no wuzu khana, no istinja area. So the Lancashire Black Police Association was set up to try and address not just the Islamic issues, but those that are relevant to minority individuals working in the constabulary. So we keep having a go at the chief officers to say, you know, you talk a good game, but you don't actually do anything. So our Deputy Chief Constable, Terry Woods, when he got the job last year, committed to changing it. And he's appointed me as the lead for workforce representation to actually make sure that we change the dynamics and the demographics of Lancashire Police so that we get more people from minority backgrounds joining the police service. So I want you to join. That's the bottom line. Look, if I, as I said to you before, if I can do it, and I try and pray, and Altaf knows this, you know, we've got Jamaat Khanas, 2 Jamaat Khanas, alhamdulillah, in headquarters. We've got one pretty much, or a room to pray salah in every police station. We only make religion difficult for ourselves. You know, if we ask, generally people will find something for us, even if it's a cupboard in a room somewhere. That's all you need to perform your salah. We use a disabled toilet to do istinja and wuzu, and you're done. Go and perform your salah. So if we make excuses that, oh, well, it's going to be difficult for us because, you know, we're terribly religious and we won't be able to perform salah, well, I think if we put our barriers in place, then we'll only create difficulties for ourselves. So that's a little bit about me. We'll move into the presentation in a second, but just so that I'm not the only one that's talking for the next half hour. If anybody has questions, please ask them. There must be a function for asking questions on this. I believe Al is the guru on questions today. Whenever you get them, just ask me them, because otherwise we'll get to the end and we may not get a chance to get through them. So please feel free to ask them. When I get a break after a slide, etc., if you've got some questions, just ask them and I'll try and respond to them. So moving swiftly on to the first slide, if we can do. That's me. Yeah, I'm a chief inspector in Lancashire, and I've got the lead, as Al says, on the workforce representation and positive action. And I will come to what positive action is in a second. But let me talk to you about the National Uplift programme. You'll know that Boris Johnson, when he came, when he was given the role of leader in effect for the Conservatives and by default the Prime Minister, he said that he would invest in another 20,000 police officers. So if you think about it, police officers generally join the police service for around 35 years. And for Lancashire, the uplift over the next 3 years means around about 600 police officers. Sorry, 600 to 900 police officers. So if we don't get the number right over the next few years, we will have the people that we've recruited for the next 35 years. If we can't get the workforce representation, the makeup of our police service right now, we won't get it right for another 10 or 15 years, because we will have almost a third of our police officers. We have about 3,000 police officers at the minute. We will have a third of our police officers that we will recruit over the next 3 or 4 years, and we'll have them for the next 35 years. So if we don't get the makeup right now, we won't be able to change that for a good period of time, which is why we need yourselves to join, sign up, and become police officers. And the place to sign up, and I'm sure it's at the end, but just so you've got it, is www.lancashire.police.uk/careers. And if that doesn't work for you, go on to the Lancashire Police website, click on Join Us, and it will take you to the registration for joining the police. And if that doesn't work for you, then email my team directly. And the email is workforce, as in work and force, and then REP, all one word, workforce rep at lancashire.pnn.police.uk. And it'll come through to us, and we'll be in touch with you so that we can ensure that you get the support, which I'll talk about in the next slides as we come along. So if we move swiftly on to the next one. So the routes into policing changed, and last year we took on the police educational qualification framework, which in effect means that there are pretty much two routes into policing now. One is a degree holder, and I have Musa with me somewhere, so if there are any technical questions on this that I need answering, Brother Musa will no doubt be able to answer them, because he's been involved heavily in actually introducing the PEQF program to Lancashire. So the first one, the degree holder, is you must have at least a 3rd class degree in any subject, and that's equivalent to a level 6, in effect, a level 6 qualification. Now, we have run a direct entry detective program this year, and I think there's some confusion with certain individuals that what that means is that you go straight to become a detective. That's not the case, and the reason why that's not the case is because you still have to have the basic skills of a police officer. So for at least 12 months, you still need to perform a role in uniform and go out and experience what policing is like. And if I'm honest with you, I don't think that's a bad idea. You know, you get a really good grounding from going out and talking to people and experiencing some of the challenges that you will face when you go out on the streets. So you will still have a probationary period, even as a detective, and you will still spend a period of time in uniform. The degree holder entry, in effect, means that you'll be a probationary period for 2 years. And then once you've done that 2 years, you'll get awarded a graduate diploma in professional policing practice, but then you can start to specialise in other things. So even just coming through the normal routes of policing doesn't mean you can't become a detective or join firearms teams or become an intelligence specialist, stay on response, become a firearms officer, join our tactical operations teams, which do all the traffic work. There are tens, if not hundreds, of jobs in policing as a police officer. And as Gary Saab thankfully quite rightly mentioned as well, there are lots of other jobs as well. So you don't have to be a police officer. You could be a police community support officer. If you think, well, actually, I just want a little bit of grounding first and understand what the communities are, then you could be a police community support officer first. You can go and work in our communications room as a communications room operator. And that also is a route into policing for a lot of people, because you start to understand the type of jobs that are coming in. You help people on the phone. There's some very, very traumatized people that ring, and it's the communications room operators that speak to them first. It's not police officers. The communications room is where the calls come into first. And when somebody's screaming down the phone, they don't scream at a police officer. They scream at the communications room officers. They take the calls, they offer them some reassurance, they try and calm them down, and at the same time, a colleague is then deploying police officers to go and deal with the job as well. So it's a real challenging role in itself as a communications room operator. You could be a custody detention officer, working the custody suite, and they are all now employed by Lancashire Police. They were employed by a separate company up until last year, but everybody is now employed by Lancashire Police. So you get looked after just as you would do in any other role in Lancashire Police. And then, of course, there are jobs in the criminal justice system, in human resources. You could become a crime scene investigator. There are lots of other jobs as well in policing. So we've touched on the...
sorry, can I just interrupt? There's a couple of questions.
Yeah, fire away.
A sister is asking that, does she have to do 2 years before she can become a detective or train to become a detective? Does she have to do the 2 years probationary first?
The probation, Altaf, is for everybody. So it doesn't matter what you do, you've still got to have it. It's actually part of the legislation. You're in a 2-year probationary period. It's police regulations that a police officer, it doesn't matter if you come in as a direct entry detective, you've still got a 2-year probationary period. So the probationary period is a slight anomaly. You just need to put that to one side. The issue here is, I think, that some people have got confused with our direct entry degree route, is that I think some people thought they would literally walk through the door, put a suit on and become a detective. Well, you need a lot of skills to become a detective, and you need lots of experience. And you also need to be able to evidence that you can be a police officer. So yes, there is a probationary period, and yes, you will have to spend a period of time in uniform, and that invariably will be around 2 years. And as soon as that 2 years is done, then you can look to specialise in another field.
Excellent. And a brother is asking, does a level 3 BTEC count as an apprenticeship route? A level 3
yes,
BTEC.
I think it does. But I will bring Musa in if I can do, because he is the guru. If he's still on and you could unmute Brother Musa, he will be able to answer that.
Yeah, salams, boss. I have put some stuff in the chat and I've been firing away. The questions are being asked. I am answering them. So I will start off by saying that if you look at the chat, I have put some links to our website, which will provide more information for you for the jobs that you may be interested in. Not just police officer roles, but police staff roles, like Mr. Khan has already explained. I've also submitted our email address that the team and I will get in touch with you should you have further queries. In addition to the BTEC question, yes, it will count towards the apprentice route. However, the force is still trying to figure out what 2 A-levels equivalent looks like for the vocational qualification. But yes, it will count towards the apprentice route. Someone asked the question around when's the window opening. I've answered it, but if you've missed it, for the people that have degrees, the window will open on the 22nd of October. But please do get in touch with us if you are thinking about the degree route before that on the email address, and somebody from the team will be in touch with you.
Thanks, Musa. Altaf, is there anything else at the minute?
No, I think at the moment we're okay. You can carry on. Thanks.
Jazakallah. So the apprenticeship, in effect, the diploma route, which is what it is the other one. So there's a degree route and then a diploma route, which is the PCDA, Police Constable Diploma Apprenticeship, in effect, which is what it will come down to. Minimum requirement, as Musa has alluded to, is 2 A levels, and you have to have English and maths. And you know, it is important because you've got to write reports, and you've got to present evidence in court, etc. So, you know, even as a detective, and probably more so as a detective, you'll need to attend court and give evidence. So it's really important to have English and maths. And whilst it says it's a 3-year probationary period, the actual police regulations stipulate that somebody is in a probationary period for 2 years, but that qualification runs for 3 years. So actually, whilst you're still in that qualification period, that does take 3 years rather than the 2 years for the degree holder. And then at the end of that, you're awarded a degree in professional policing and policing practice. So think about it. People are paying £27,000 plus for a degree nowadays, and you get it free joining the police. You get a degree pretty much. Certainly with the apprenticeship route, you get one free, and you get an additional qualification with the degree holder entry route as well. So it is a very, very good route to come through. And genuinely, look, let me be honest with you. Policing when you're young can be an influencer, and you know, you can get carried away a little bit if you're young. Now, you've got enough people now around you to kind of say to you, look, that's not for you. Because look, all my life I was different. I was different because I was from a different background. I was brought up in a different community. My skin colour was different. And then I joined the police and made the mistake of trying to fit in. Well, I'm different. You know, I don't do what these people do that aren't the same as me. So why should I fit in? You know, our colleagues who aren't from the same background as us should understand that we don't have to do. We don't have to go to a pub. We don't have to go on a night out with them. We should be strong enough to say, that's not for me, thank you very much. And if you want to go for a walk in the Lake District as a team, I'm all right with that. But all of the rest of the stuff that you're doing, that's not for me. If you want to go for a meal to Kebabish, and I'm not promoting Kebabish by any chance here, you know, that's fine. But, you know, going out on dues out to, you know, on a pub crawl is not for me. So we've got enough support around you from the likes of the Lancashire Black Police Association to give you support and help to settle into a policing role that means that you can still be who you are, and you don't need to change if you become a police officer. So what are the stages? Well, we've got firstly an application stage, and we do all of this. Some forces don't do an application stage. We do in Lancashire. We get lots of applicants, and the application stage is a way of actually sifting out some of the numbers that we get. So some forces, because they can't get the numbers that they need, they remove the application stage. And it is a competency-based application stage. It's 4 questions, and actually for the window that Musa has alluded to, that is likely to open around the end of October, the 22nd, we will probably ask for some additional skills around language and possibly some cultural competence as well. So, you know, an awareness of the difficulties that people face living in minority communities, that kind of thing. You know, have you helped somebody in your life using a language other than English? Because look, we need those languages. Our communities are growing. Next year's census will probably show that our communities have grown even more than they were in 2011, and that's the data we're using. Yes, we have a midterm census from 2016, but it doesn't give you all of the information. So our communities will grow. They are more diverse than they ever were, and yet our police officer numbers and police staff, for that matter, look exactly as they were 11 years ago. That can't be right, can it? That it just simply cannot be right that we are trying to deliver and provide a service to our communities with a small number of people from those communities. You know, how much confidence can you give to a community if people look at you and go, well, you're all white, you don't reflect my community. And I'm not suggesting that we need a minority police service to police a minority community. But by you joining the police service and sitting in a car with a colleague where you give them an insight into what it's like to be from a minority community, increases their knowledge and awareness. So when they go and deal with something themselves, they have a better understanding of what to expect and what to deliver. At the minute, they haven't got that. They're not exposed to the cultural awareness that you all have out there. We have a small number of police officers, 139 out of 3,000 that are from a minority community. That surely cannot be right. I don't care which rank you are. If you think that that is right, well, then you shouldn't be in policing. Because 139 police officers from a minority background out of 3,000, with the communities that we've got at the minute, just isn't right. And we've got to change that. And look, I hope I am an example to you. Yes, it's taken me a while to get to Chief Inspector, and you know, but there are lots of opportunities now. Now is the time where people, the likes of our Deputy Chief Constable, Terry Woods, is committed to ensuring that people that have got the skills that we need will get into policing, and then they will progress if they want to. So, you know, now is the time, inshallah, for yourselves all to start getting involved in it. And so from application stage is the assessment centre. Now, we used to do that face-to-face, but because of COVID-19, the College of Policing have moved that online. It's an online assessment centre, and it includes things like an interview. It's 5 questions in an interview, a written exercise, a briefing exercise, and something called a situational judgment test, which is you get a scenario and then you get 4 responses, and you have to decide which response best fits that scenario. Now, we're not doing that in Lancashire at the minute. We've removed that from our process. So assessment centre only includes the interview, the written exercise, and then a briefing exercise as well. And then, inshallah, when you've passed that, and you know what I say, when you've passed that, not if you pass it, because we can get you through an assessment centre, you come for a final interview with the constabulary itself. Once you've done that, then it's down to vetting, medical, and then the fitness test. So it can take quite a period of time, usually about 8 months. And sometimes, if the vetting or the medical isn't cleared quickly enough, it can take a little bit longer, because what they can do is just say, right, we just need a little bit more time to get you through a medical and vetting, and then we will hopefully put you through at a later point. So that deals with that slide. And as you can see, the starting salary is 23,586. Now, that used to take 10 years to get to the top rate, which is around about the 39,000, 40,000 mark for a police constable. But the government reduced it down to 6 years. So you can get to around about £39,000 in 6 years. Then if you get promoted to sergeant, that takes you up to around 45 to 50,000. Inspectors are on from 50,000 to around 55,000. And then I'm not going to tell you what a chief inspector's on. So if we can move on to the next slide, but you'll have guessed it's slightly around the 60,000 mark and above. So, right, what we know, and this is not what we think, what we know is that if you are from a white ethnic background, that you invariably know somebody in policing, either a family member, a friend of the family, or a friend of a friend, who, when you decide you want to become a police officer, you go to and say, I'm joining the police, can you give me some help, please? And they know the process. So they know what I've just taught through, the application, the assessment centre, and they have an idea of what to expect in the application form and the assessment centre and interview. So they guide their friends, colleagues, family members through the process, which means it makes it easy for them to try and navigate it. Now, if you're from a minority community, well, there's only 139 police officers, firstly. And secondly, if you don't know anybody from there, you probably don't have the confidence to go up to somebody that isn't from a minority background and say, look, I want to join the police. Can you tell me a bit about the police and what do I need to do? So the government realised this, and as a result, and it was changed a long, long time ago, but it was consolidated in the Equality Act of 2010, where they allow, the legislation, the law allows employers to implement something called positive action support. Alhamdulillah. And what that basically means is that candidates who don't have that support, that connection, because that's what it is, it's a connection, isn't it? Somebody has a connection with somebody from the constabulary, or somebody that knows somebody from the constabulary. If you don't have that connection, the employer can put somebody in place to help and support you. And that's where we have the team that we have, the Workforce Representation and Positive Action team that Mr. Woods has put in place, and I lead the team. Then I have a sergeant that works alongside me, and then we have 3 police officers and 3 police staff members, as well as an apprentice, all geared up, ready to offer you support through the process. So what do? We don't give you the answers. We can't give you the answers because that would be unfair. You know, if we think about how unfair it is at the minute with other people getting help and minority communities not, it would be wrong to completely flip the tables and say, oh, we'll give you the answers. And I don't think it would help anybody just saying, right, well, you can have the answers. What we do is we give you a structure. We tell you how to align your answer to the competencies that we're looking for, how to present your questions, the responses, sorry, to the questions that you've got, so that you have a much better chance of getting the mark that allows you to progress to the next process. and we run sessions for that. So we invite you, and we've been doing that on Microsoft Teams for the application form. So we invite people on who want to join, and we give them an indication of what the competencies are, the areas that we will be assessing, and how to structure a really good answer. So you've got every opportunity then of progressing to the next stage. What we then do is we've been doing face-to-face for assessment centre, and bearing in mind it's COVID, we've got a lecture theatre that we socially distance everybody. You know, we only invite in 10 or 15 people at any one time. We get all of the social distancing measures in place. And my view is, and it is my view, that face-to-face is much better than online on an assessment centre preparation. Application stage, we can give you information that you just take away and you use to structure your application form. On an assessment centre, we put you through a mock interview for the assessment centre. There's 5 questions on the assessment centre. We do 2 to get you into the thought process of what you need to start thinking about. We then also have a simulation exercise that we've set up for the written and the briefing exercise, and we test you on it. And we put you under a little bit of pressure to see how you respond to that pressure so that you are better prepared for the assessment centre. Now, it's not clearly the written exercise or the briefing exercise that you would face in the actual assessment centre. Again, that would be wrong and unfair, but we give you some practice ones to look through and start thinking about the type of things that we are looking for, or certainly the National Assessment Centre assessors are looking for. Once you've done that and you're successful, inshallah, through the assessment centre, we invite you for a full mock interview, and we'll put you under some pressure, proper pressure, to test you, to get you ready for a values-based and behaviour-based interview that talks about what's important for Lancashire Police. After that, it's in yours and Allah's subhanahu wa ta'ala's hands, because we can't control vetting, medical and fitness. That is down to yourselves. But what we can do is support you on something like the fitness test. If you're worried that you might not pass it, or that you're worried about a certain part of it, because certainly for women, it is much more difficult to perform some of the tasks that are set. We have alternatives that we use that will get you through that process. And so basically, if you think about it, it talks you, we are here to help you right the way through the process. And the team is there to help you. Now, what I will say is the team won't spend time on people that want to waste our time. And we do get some of that. So we're prepared to offer you everything that you need as long as you're prepared to engage with us. So the team's details are there. Workforce rep at lancashire.pnn.police.uk. That's our number. Preston 413651. And I think that should be the end of my slides, if I'm not mistaken.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Sorry to interrupt you. You mentioned about fitness test. What does that entail, Brother Abid?
It's pretty much tantamount to the bleep test, which I think is the bit that worries most people. It's a 20-metre shuttle run that gradually gets quicker. And for most police officers, if you're not a public order trained police officer, for most police officers, that's up to level 5-4. And then it gradually goes up if you're public order trained, and it can get higher. Now, you do need to pass that. And then there are other bits and pieces around grip tests, but I wouldn't worry. Genuinely, the fitness test is not something that people need to worry themselves about. We can get people through. It is not a difficult test. It is easily manageable. But the bit that concerns most people, I think, is the actual shuttle run. But if you struggle with that because there are certain conditions that you have, then we can use treadmill tests and all kinds of other bits and pieces.
Okay.
Sorry, boss, can I just jump in?
Sorry.
Go on, Musa.
Yeah, just in addition to the bleep test, what I would say to those, it's basically running in a straight line on a 15-meter line for about 5 minutes. and the bleeps get shorter as you go on. What I would say is there is an app you can download, and I can't remember off the top of my head what it's called, but I'm sure if you Google it, a bleep test app, you can Google it, and if you're struggling, you can try it for yourself and give it a go.
Jazakallah, Brother Musa. My view, Altaf, would be if anybody that's been listening to today, if anybody wants to join the police, ask them to email us on that workforce rep email address. Email us direct. We'll put them onto the messaging system. We'll get, that's the one, workforcerep@lancashire.pnn.police.uk. Email us direct, and we will put you on our spreadsheet so that we can get in touch with you and offer you as a starter for 10 application stage advice, and then we track you all the way through the system. We will manage you and give you guidance support right the way through. And if you know anybody that's just gone through our recent recruitment program where we've managed to get alhamdulillah 20 people successful. Bearing in mind, we only have 139. We've just got through 20 people on one process. If you know somebody that's been on there, speak to them and ask them if they felt the positive action support that we offered, whether it was worthwhile or not. And I guarantee they will say, you need that support, and we'll offer you the support.
Brother is asking, what is the age limit to join? Is there a limit?
So it was 18, but it's been reduced to 17 as long as at the point of joining, when you become a police officer and you start on that first day, you are 18 years old. But my view, Al, is always it's better to get even 12, 18 months of life experience first, because you have a better chance of answering the questions, certainly in interview, if you've got a little bit of experience behind you.
And what would be the maximum age?
No, there's no maximum as far as I'm aware.
All right, okay.
I'm taking Gary Saab, signing him up to me. I'm going to Mumbai. He's gonna invite me to Mumbai, inshallah.
Yes.
We're signing him up. That toopy looks fantastic.
I'm inviting you to visit my school. You know, I will be glad to host you in my school, inshallah. My students will love to see you and meet you. As Altaf Bhai once came with Inspector Richard Debicki. He did visit my school.
And is that in India or was that in England? Did Inspector Debicki go to India? Or did
he came to India. They both came to India.
Ah, they kept that quiet, didn't they?
well,
yes. Yeah.
Any more questions? Is there anything that anybody would like me to talk about or answer? Just
I would like to ask one thing, Inspector, if you permit me. As I mentioned prior to you started speaking, that there could be some more departments which could be interesting for the youngsters to join the police, not directly the policing, but which could be the things, you know, mechanical department, electrical department, or anything else you would like to mention? Apart from being the policeman.
Yeah, we have a maintenance department, so a vehicle maintenance department. The difficulty with those jobs is that somebody has to retire or leave in order to get one, because we only have a certain number. Whereas with policing and with the likes of police community support officers, every year we recruit about 150 police officers. So every single year, we've been doing this for 100 years. Every single year, 150 police officers retire. So you have to replace those police officers. So it's always there are always more jobs in as a police officer in policing than there are some of the others. But we've just advertised for 16 digital officers working in our communications room. You know, that's an ideal job that was for our members of our community that are young, that have just come out of school, who have done IT and design in technology in school, to have applied for those, because they are just the jobs that they should be applying for.
Yes, yeah. So you're talking about the Lancashire Constabulary, right?
Yeah, whilst I have, this isn't just unique to Lancashire. So every police force in England and Wales is recruiting police officers at the minute.
Right.
So if you are listening from outside of Lancashire at the minute, you don't have to join long. I would much rather you be a police officer anywhere than not be one. If you are in London and you're listening, join the Met. Please join the Met. If you need support from us, get in touch with us. We'll put you in touch with somebody in the Met who do their positive action. I am not precious. I have sent people who don't have a degree to Manchester to join. I've said, join Greater Manchester. In a few years' time, we'll transfer them back again, inshallah, back to Lancashire. I would much rather you be a police officer somewhere than not be a police officer at all, because we need the people to make the change. If we are very good, and I am a Pakistani, so I speak for my own community, not the Gujarati Indian community. We are classic complainers. We complain about everything. But
classic complainers.
We are.
Is that a compliment, or is that a compliment, or how shall I take it?
No, I'm afraid on this occasion it's not a compliment, because you know my analogy is sometimes members of our own community, if you gave them £1 million, they'd complain that you hadn't given them a wheelbarrow to take it home in. You give them £1 million in gold, and you give it to them, they'll complain you haven't got a wheelbarrow.
I'm sure, Inspector, you're joking, because if you're serious, that they won't join the police force again.
What I'm trying to say is human nature is such that we do like to complain, but not actually get involved sometimes.
Right.
And it is wonderful to see that you have taken the initiative to actually push and do something that is valuable and meaningful to particularly our young community. Look at me, I'm grey now, old. I'm 25 years, I've got a few years to do, inshallah. What I want to be able to do is look back and say, at least I did something to change the face of Lancashire Police.
Right.
And so I need the young people of our communities to get involved, and, you know, not to be nervous that policing is something that isn't for them. You know, there are, if I ever went in and I had to deal with somebody that had been drinking, I always had a change of clothes in my locker. There's a showering room available. Come back. If you think your clothes have become bullied, now back, take them off, put your new set on, have a shower, put your new set on, go and perform your salah. We make life hard for ourselves because we think, oh, it's going to be this and it's going to be that. And look, I've not experienced any racism in Lancashire Police in 25 years. Have I had people ignore me? Yes. And that might be their way of being difficult with me. But I've never experienced any overt racism from anybody inside the police. Have I experienced it from people that are drunk and disorderly? Yes. But they have then spent the night at Her Majesty's pleasure inside one of the cells. So, you know, there's a benefit to being a police officer. Yes, it is challenging. Yes, our parents worry about us. You know, my mum didn't want me to join until I went for the final interview. And then she said to me, good luck. And now she tells everybody that my son's a police officer. Everybody that comes gets told. You don't leave the house until you've been told my son is a police officer.
Police officer.
So these are the things that we've got to get over. They're easily doable. They're not difficult. We can achieve much more. We need people to come forward, register, and go through that process, inshallah.
I've got one question.
Okay, go on.
Yeah, sorry. For both of you, for Brother Abid as well as for Kari as well. Brother Abid, you mentioned on your presentation that the way working in police force is perceived, the way it's looked at, and sometimes people, they are hesitant to join. So how can we overcome this? And Kari Sahib, even if you can put something in that so that people they can understand how working in police force can be, like how anything, to motivate people or to give in some thought so that can motivate them to join. Yeah.
Yes. First and foremost, the The reluctance is because of lack of awareness and knowledge, the responsibilities and the duties and the prestige that comes along. Like Chief Inspector Abid Khan, he just said that his mom now takes pride in introducing him as a police officer. So that's the way. Once you acquire that position and the respect, then there is no inhibitance, you know. And another thing is from the Islamic perspective or the point of view, we all are police. Now you will ask me how. So there is one hadith sharif which says, "Kullukum ra'in, wa kullukum mas'ulun an ra'iyatihi." Each one of you is a ra'i. Ra'i means literal meaning is a shepherd. Now, what is being a shepherd? To look after the cattle, right? And what does a shepherd do? Some of them are very obedient. They will follow him. So he doesn't need to police them. Some of them will run away here and there. So he just had to take a rope and tie them. Some of them will be naughty. So he had to have one stick in his hand and just discipline them. And some of them will be so weak that he has to carry them on their shoulders. That is being a ra'i. And then if a father is the head of the family, he has to answer about what he did to protect them from various wrong doings. In the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he'll be answerable, he will be accountable. So he's a policeman of his own family. And likewise, the more powerful you are, and you are responsible for more and more people. A teacher is responsible for his disciples. Head teacher is responsible for the entire school. A prime minister is responsible for the entire country. So likewise, we are all responsible. So this is also another responsibility, which is a paid responsibility, where it is a livelihood. We can earn money as long as we serve it honestly, and then we can serve the community as well.
I mean, Qari Saab articulates it far better than I will. My view is you know what policing is to help people. You know, if there is no better task arguably in Islam as well than to help somebody, and to help somebody. If you look at policing, it is a place where people only come when they need help. There are very, very few people that are driving down the street one day and pop into the police station to say, "I've just popped in to say hello." Very, very few people do that. People come in because they need help. You know, it is when something in their life has gone wrong that they come to the police. And is it not an honourable thing to do to help people and, you know, deal with the most vulnerable in society and safeguard them and give them something in life to actually look forward to? You know, if that's not what you do as a police officer and that's not what you join for, then you're probably joining for the wrong reasons. If you don't want to make a difference to people's lives, help and safeguard them and make sure that they have something in life that they can actually look for that improves their life, then this isn't the job for you. You know, that is policing, is to help.
Right. Service to community, and again, you are financially compensated for that. Right.
And absolutely right. You know, some people will say, "Oh, I just do it for this reason. I just do it because I want to help people." No, actually, you're absolutely right that you do get financially compensated, and is not then arguably as well improving your own standard of life and putting bread on the table for your own family and looking after your own family. Is that not a responsibility as well? Yes, it is. Yes. And policing is very rewarding financially as well. You know, the pension is very good, alhamdulillah. The salary is good. You know, just the way it's set up, you're well looked after. You know, Brother Altaf will tell you about our Chief Constable is the national lead for well-being. So of all the Chief Constables, he has the lead for well-being. He looks after his staff. So it is a rewarding career, you know, and if you become the Chief Constable, I think our Chief Constable is on £160,000 a year. So it's a very rewarding, you know, and as a Chief Superintendent, you'd be on £90,000 to £95,000 a year. I think it's 85 to 95,000. Assistant chief constables are on 110 to 120. It is a rewarding career. You know, after 6 years, how many youngsters, if you join at 19, by 25, you'd be on close to £40,000 a year. 6 years to get to the top of the increments for policing. So whilst it is challenging and enjoyable, and look, yes, you do get to drive fast cars around, and you know, you do get to chase criminals and deal with them and lock them up, and you get to use a heavy metal thing that smashes somebody's door up that's doing bad things. It is a great job. It really is. It's
you also get a few trips to India, Abid. You forgot that. You also get
a trip to India. That's
India for investigation, right?
Can I just ask? We've also got online a brother from GMP Police who've joined, Salim Patel. If he's on online, if you
yes, he is here.
Please. Yeah.
I was going to tell you that I have got one of my recruits here, Salim, who is here. MashaAllah.
Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
MashaAllah. Welcome to this session, MashaAllah. Alhamdulillah.
Jazakallah.
Salim, do you want to tell the audience what's your experience about policing? I know you've just recently joined, and how do you feel, and you know what's your views on that?
Yeah, alhamdulillah. I've been a police officer for 4 years now, on response, frontline, at Greater Manchester. Well, where can I start? At first, my degree was in business management and finance, nothing to do with policing whatsoever. Growing up, obviously everyone has fascinations of the police, looking at fast police cars and sirens blazing. My daughter now, she's only 2 years old, and every time I go to work, she's always asking me to send her a photo of a police car every shift. So, you know, everyone at one point was fascinated by the police, but that fascination eventually, you try to do other things as you progress through high school, college, university. And I did business management and finance. So when I was actively looking for a career, alhamdulillah, I went to pray Zohar Namaz at Masjid Nurul Islam in Bolton, and the positive action team of Greater Manchester were outside actively recruiting. Now, I went over to speak to a few officers, and I was kind of surprised to see there were like 5-6 police officers that were from the Muslim community, and it kind of surprised me because I always used to think that the police officers are all from the white background and there's not much diversity, etc. But I was proven wrong at that point. So I thought I'd try it and see how it feels. And at the same time, when I told my family and friends that, I'm putting an application through to become a police officer, their reaction was the same. It's not very diverse, and how are you going to cope? You've never had a fight in your life. You're one of the coldest people that we know. Like, you're going to have to get violent and stuff. But it's the training that they put you through tells you that, it's not always about getting hands-on with people. Sometimes communication, your word of mouth is sometimes your best tactic to get people on your side. Same with the chief inspector, Abid Khan. Now my parents can't really let people go without telling them that their son is a police officer. So yeah, it's a really proud feeling. It is one of the best. It is for me the best job. And if another company was to come through offering me a different job, offering me £5,000-10,000 more to do something else, sitting at a desk, I'd probably have to kindly turn them down, just because policing is, honestly, I love it. Something else that I was quite reluctant about was obviously having a young family and working shift pattern, but soon it works in your favor when the children go to school and you're able to go pick them up and drop them off, because you're either on a night shift or you've got quite a few days off together. It's not all plain sailing. There are some challenges at times. You do have to deal with that drunk person who's giving you verbal abuse and racist abuse, which is not acceptable in any form. But like the chief inspector said, they'll be spending their night in the cells, which you always get the last laugh. And obviously, you're not in the job to have the laugh, but obviously, it just shows that you have to deal with what's in front of you. So I wouldn't be able to be in this job if it weren't for the positive action team in Greater Manchester. Obviously, the Chief Inspector's already said that there's a positive action team for Lancashire, and they do very similar stuff to what Greater Manchester do. And I believe the Chief Inspector Abid Khan knows one of the sergeants who's in the positive action team in Greater Manchester, Abid Sardar, is mentioned to me that they know each other well and they work together at times. So it's good to know that there's transparency between the different forces in how the recruitment process works. And if it wasn't for the positive action team, I don't think I would be. Obviously, you have to put the effort in, go through the interviews and preparing for the role plays, etc. But their help was definitely highly regarded when I joined the police. In terms of the diversity within the police, it's a bit different in Greater Manchester. There's more police officers in Greater Manchester. So in Greater Manchester, there are approximately 400 Muslim police officers. The BAME population in Greater Manchester is between 13 to 16%. And like the Chief Inspector said, the plan is to get the BAME officers to that similar level between 13 to 16%, because it is the people that are going to be serving the population. I've got a good example of this. When I used to work in Bolton a couple of years ago, there used to be a female from the Asian community. She was quite young. She was going through some hard times in her life, and she had to call the police a couple of times. When the police turned up, they were white male officers, and she wasn't able to express herself to them. But then at one point, I got turned out to go to the same female, and just because of the way she could associate with herself with myself, speaking the same language, seeing someone from the same community as her, she was able to open up to me. And when she did open up, I was able to provide her the support and refer her to the right agencies and get her the help that she needed. So the more people from the different backgrounds, the better, to help the people from the different backgrounds in the community. So yeah, something else I've never experienced in 4 years. I've not experienced any racism from within the police force itself. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Just take you back to during Ramadan when I'm fasting, the supervision are well aware that this person is fasting for approximately 20 hours. So, you know, he's going to need some rests and some breaks, and make sure he's not going to any serious jobs where it could go a bit wrong. So they help you out with that. They give you extra breaks during your shift. And during iftar time, the supervision were happy to let me go and break my fast with my family, because they saw that it's something that's important to me.
What is that?
Something else, again, like the Chief Inspector said, they all have prayer rooms. There's about 200 people on that. It's like a network where people can interact with each other, share their differences, how they get around doing their Islamic stuff, prayers, etc., whilst on duty. They also do like iftar together once every Ramadan, where they do iftar meals together and Eid meals. They also do walks for, like they recently did a charity walk for Kuwait and just helping different people out. So yeah, there is a really good network out there for Muslims and from people from BAME backgrounds. When I would definitely recommend people, if they've ever thought of joining the police, but thought that for whatever reason they can't, I'm urging them to make that first step and seek help from different police officers that they meet and apply for it or apply for the role. If whatever the chief inspectors talked about today and whatever I said, if that's making you feel, hold on, mate, I might want to do something similar and help the people of the community, go ahead and apply. If you're interested, I know it's the chief inspectors talked about recruitment for the Lancs police, but if it is Greater Manchester that you want to apply for, send an email to recruitment.support@gmp.police.uk and request an expression of interest form. Or if you do have any questions, send your question to that email address and there will be people out there to help you out. Again, the normal application from start to the end is about 6 months. Well, it was 6 months when I joined. However, due to COVID, it might be slightly longer at this moment in time. But yeah, definitely drop an email to recruitment.support@gmp.police.uk and hopefully I'll be seeing you in a uniform one day.
Jazakallah Salim Bhai, thanks for that insight into policing. If you want to transfer to Lancashire, we'll be more than happy to accommodate that. So, that's no problem at all.
Yes, brother. I'm glad that you got that in before me. Salim, just drop me a message and we'll get you transferred across.
Straight to inspector.
Inshallah, why not?
Inshallah.
Fast track.
Promotion.
We can get you on. Brother Altaf, just one thing that I probably missed is policing isn't hard, it's common sense. Most of policing is common sense. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to be a police officer. If you can apply logic and common sense to most things with a balanced view and take your time and be calm, you can be an excellent police officer.
True, very true. MashaAllah.
I've got a question for either Brother Abid or Brother Salim. Can either of you mention a bit about volunteering as a special constable? Is that something that's still open to participants in this current climate?
Yes, it is, and it is generally a really good route into policing. My view is, if you want to be a police officer, just become a police officer. If you're not sure and you want a little bit of experience to try and dip your toes in to experience what it's like, then yeah, it is. And if somebody emails us and indicates that they want to be a special constable, then we'll put them on our list for specials. And as soon as we open that window for special constable, then we'll get in touch with them and do the same. It's not quite as intense for the recruitment process. It's nowhere near as difficult because you're not a full-time police officer, and invariably you work alongside somebody. But yeah, absolutely, it is a good route.
Okay, Jazakallah for that.
And again, all they have to do is email us on that workforce rep. And I'm mindful that Brother Salim's put his email address on as well. So please get in touch. I get paid at the minute to help people. So I'm not helping them outside. I'm helping them to try and get into the police service. So use us.
Jazakallah Abid, that was a fantastic presentation, and Salim Bhai and those who got involved. If I can ask Qari Sahab, I'm just a bit conscious of time now, ask Qari Sahab to just finish it off. Qari Sahab, if you may, please.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, it was really a very nice experience and interaction, and more than what I expected. MashaAllah, I was just looking forward to it since it was announced, and Alhamdulillah, it's a privilege to be talking to Chief Inspector and my brother Salim, who I was very fascinated when he became a police officer. Then I was really happy for him, and then he always keeps me updating me about his achievements and whatever he's done and investigations, how he does it, and the psychological factors and all those community related things. And it's really fascinating to know all about from him. So he's one of us and he's representing us. So inshallah, with this drive, inshallah, we expect more. of us to come in and join the police force so that we can do a service to the humanity, service for the nation, service for the community, and then wipe out some misunderstandings and misconceptions which prevail in the society, so that we can get closer and make the nation very stronger. So thank you all very much for being a part of it. It was really nice hosting you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward us all, and hope to see you again on the Hope platform very soon.
Just before we all go, Jazakallah Qari Sahab, and before we all go, we've got a very interesting session next week also. So if I can get Brother Mohsin to say a few words on what next week brings us. If you can, please, Mohsin, if you're online.
Assalamu alaikum. First of all, Jazakallah khair for the amazing presentation and how to join the police force. A little bit of a background about me. I work as a headhunter, so my role is to help people looking for new roles. They are job seekers. I also help global companies recruit the right staff and the best staff within the industry. So one of the very first presentations we did was all about writing an effective CV. It was one of the pretty intense presentations, and it gave us a lot of insight how to write a CV to try and get interviews. Now, my role will be more about talking about what happens the minute you send your CV online. We've noticed a lot of roles are now going online, so my role is to help you behind the back office. What happens to your CV? Where does it end up? Who picks it up? And how do they decide if you're going to be successful in an interview or not? With the current pandemic and global pandemic, we're noticing an increased number of applications. And I know some candidates will be spending over hundreds and hundreds of CVs and not receive a reply. Partly that's because artificial intelligence is taking over. It's basically using algorithms to analyze your CV, and it's basically a robot that controls your CV. When that happens, they decide on specific keywords, and use these keywords to decide if you are good for the application or not. So I'll talk about going past the applicant tracking system, what it looks for, and how you can maximize your opportunities of getting your interview. It's quite informative because certain subjects that we do in college or even after university, we never get taught. And this is an area that if we had a little bit more insight, we'll be able to understand and be successful. So it's going to be intense. I'll try and make it as simple as possible and cover most of the key areas we need to consider.
Inshallah, inshallah. Jazakallah.
Jazakallah.
So let's pray the dua to end the majlis. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala habibi sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi.